Welcome to the John Cady Podcast. I'm John Cady, U.S. Navy retired, former minister. Once again, I'm going down the rabbit hole of music, and the question I submitted to ChatGPT and Grok, in particular ChatGPT, which is where I'm going to be drawing my answers, concerns 1980s classic rocker Billy Squier. Billy Squier, to preface the story, had a pretty strong career in the early 80s until 1984 when his song Rock Me Tonight, which hit the top 20, it was a big hit. But as those of us old enough to remember the days of MTV when they were doing music videos, Billy Squier's creative decision to make that embarrassingly bad video of him prancing around in pajamas on silk sheets, to this day, it still is a case study in how a bad creative decision can completely derail and wreck a career. It doesn't always take a scandal. The Rock Me Tonight video was so awful that it was an embarrassment. Billy Squier was humiliated. Nobody could take him seriously for decades. It wasn't until within the last 10 years that he was finally able to recoup some of the damage that the embarrassment this video caused did him. So here's the question. What if Billy Squier shot a different, less embarrassing music video for his top 20 hit Rock Me Tonight? Would his career continue a course of success? Would he even find recognition in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? We're going to create a mock discography with album titles, release dates, and charted singles. In reality, his Rock Me Tonight video tanked his momentum despite the single being a top 20 hit. If the video had been shot in a more straightforward hard rock performance style, as is often seen with other artists like Judas Priest, Van Halen, Def Leppard, and so forth, his credibility would more than likely have stayed intact. That could have kept him in the same tier as Foreigner, Journey, or Bryan Adams through the mid to late 1980s. And with that consistency, he might have even cracked consideration for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a hard rock, album-oriented radio icon. The alternate discography. Everything that we looked at in the beginning up until 1984 remains the same. But in 1984, this is where the alternate history begins. Signs of Life, the cover art has him against a burning neon sign with intense blues and reds. The chart peak in the alternate timeline would be number 6 in the U.S. It would go platinum. Rock Me Tonight, which hit number 15 on the Hot 100 in the real world, would climb a little bit higher, hit number 11, and would hit number 1 on the mainstream rock charts, aided by a confident performance-style MTV video instead of the infamous Dancing Pajamas one. A couple follow-up singles would take place. Eye on You would hit number 48 on the U.S. mainstream rock charts. Fall for Love would hit number 22. 1986, Tougher Than the Night. This is a fictional album, hypothetical. And in the cover, it would show an urban night shot with Billy Squier wearing a leather jacket, his guitar slung low, headlights glaring behind him. It would be believed that it would hit number 12 in the U.S. It would go gold. Heart on Fire would hit number 28 on the Hot 100, hit number 2 on the mainstream rock charts. Tougher Than the Night would be a second top 40 hit, hitting number 37, and Restless Heart would peak at number 18 on the mainstream rock charts. 1989, No Turning Back. This is another hypothetical. It would be a 80s style arena rock anthems album. The cover art would show the stadium floodlights with Billy Squier walking onto a stage in silhouette. It's believed that this release would hit number 18 and go gold as well, and it would spawn a few top 40 hits as well. Stand or Fall would hit number 22, number 1 on the mainstream rock charts. Can't Look Away would be another top 40 hit, peaking at number 40. Love's a Loaded Gun would hit number 7 on the mainstream rock charts. By the 1990s, according to ChatGPT, Billy Squier would embrace elements of the grunge movement. Fade to Light would show him in a black and white picture with an acoustic guitar. It wouldn't go as well as his previous work, hitting number 45 on the album charts, but two of the singles, Fade to Light and Out of My Hands, would be top 40 hits on the mainstream rock charts. Second Wind, a 1999 fictional release, would show him walking into the horizon on a desert road. Run for Cover and Second Wind would also be top 40 hits on the U.S. mainstream rock charts. So what kind of legacy would Billy Squier have in this alternate timeline? Without the embarrassment of Rock Me Tonight, his career would be more consistent and steady. Signs of Life, Tougher Than the Night would keep him MTV viable throughout the rest of the 1980s, and by the 21st century, he would be considered a nostalgia act alongside the likes of Pat Benatar, Journey, and Foreigner. He would be in demand across the country and around the world. By that point, his catalog gets reappraised, and by the mid-2010s, he's nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, though it's debated as to whether he would actually be inducted. That may or may not happen, simply because there are a lot more competitive artists out there who have more significant contributions and thus a more lasting impact. So it's very interesting to see where this would go. This is a little bit shorter than the other What If, but when you look back on it, Billy Squier had everything going for him by the middle of the 1980s. Every top 10 list concerning embarrassing career decisions, poor quality music videos, Billy Squier always ends up in the discussion because the video for Rock Me Tonight was so ridiculous and so awful. His career tanked. The best he's been able to come up with since then is a recurring appearance as part of Ringo Starr's all-star band, which isn't a bad gig, but one can only wonder what might have been. What would it have been like if he had listened to his gut and not his producers and say, let's do something a bit more straightforward, man. I'm a rocker, not a fashionista. This whole concept here of me dancing around in sheets and a pink tank top and whatever, it just sends a bad vibe. It alienates the fans, which it did. A lot of people just turned and walked away from Billy Squier after that. So would he have been in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? That may or may not have been the case, but at least his legacy would have been more secure as a classic rock icon, and his songs and albums could be looked at with a lot less cringe. This is John Cady. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. If you like the content, please hit like or subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.